Hello and welcome to today's episode of Shopping for the Real You. This is one of our final episodes in our 31 days of self-care. And my very wonderful guest today is Melina Takvorian Mishra. I want to give you her full bio if for those of you that aren't my subscribers and didn't get the email, because in my YouTube subscribers won't know how important this interview is. Melina is the director of Chandika.com, a website dedicated to perpetuating the knowledge of Ayurveda, which is the ancient traditional system of healing and wholeness and health from India. She received her first Ayurvedic consultation on a backpacking trip in northern India in 1998 from the Dalai Lama's own personal Vaidya. Vaidya means healer, or it's loosely translated as Ayurvedic doctor. And that was the beginning of a lifelong, passionate obsession and adventure with this science of Ayurveda. When she returned to the United States that year, she met Vaidya Ramakant Mishra and knew that instantly she had met her Ayurvedic guru, the greatest of living healers and teachers. In 2002, while completing her graduate work toward her PhD in transgenerational trauma, she started working with Vaidya Mishra on Ayurvedic remedies for healing the heart, the mind, including transdermal marma protocols. I love those. Those are the creams that you put on the different points in the body. And in 2003, they together founded two companies for Ayurvedic formulations and knowledge. And for 14 years, Melina traveled with Vaidya Mishra as he offered workshops and consultations across the United States, Canada, and Europe. And I went to several of those, and they were so wonderful, just wonderful. Vaidya Mishra transitioned in 2017, and his full range of Ayurvedic herbal formulations continue through the work of Melina, as well as the knowledge, both audio, visual, and in print. And I highly encourage you to sign up for her regular newsletter at chandika.com. I'm going to put the link here below. And other courses are still available. So I'm just so delighted to welcome you here today, Melina, because we're going to talk about an issue that is crucially important for health and wellness, and that is how to get a good night's sleep, right?
Absolutely. I am so happy. Thank you so much for inviting me. And this is such an important topic, especially nowadays, especially over the past couple of years with everything that's been going on a global scale. Sleep has become an even more elusive, ever so much more desired aspect of our lives. And, we might as well just jump into it.
Please.
Ayurveda is all about health. It's about physical, mental, emotional, and all of that, right? And it says very clearly at the outset that there are three things that matter the most if you want to be healthy and happy. It's ahar, the food or diet that you keep. It's brahmacharya, proper conduct, which is, compassionate towards your own body and towards others. And sleep, nidra. So sleep is right up there if you want to, have a simple formula for having a good, happy life. Sleep is 1/3. It's one of the most important components. And there's a lot that Ayurveda offers us that I'll be, happy to share today.
Yeah, I thought I knew a fair amount about Ayurveda, but I never knew that sleep was one of the triumvirate of good health. And I love the fact that Ayurveda also includes behavior. We went through a lot of that in this 31 days that we're looking at. So I want to go into the weeds a little bit here. I know that Ayurveda identifies 3 different body types or combinations, I suppose. And I want to know if there are different recommendations. I mean, I need you to give some description for our viewers who don't know anything about this area of knowledge. But I'd like to know if there are different recommendations for better sleep for different body types.
Yes, that's a beautiful question. And it's a very nice practical way of incorporating Ayurveda into your life, because Ayurveda is so vast. It can be really overwhelming. So as you mentioned, Ayurveda talks about 3 different body types. And this knowledge has been in the West for the past 30, 35 years. It's become very popularized, and it has begun already. You can see it in non-Ayurvedic practices seeping in as well. And body typing gives us like a nice practical tool for regulating diet, activity, and addressing mental and emotional stress. So the 3 body types very roughly are, there's the 1 type, which is steady, stable, heavy, and slow, I guess. And you would call it a kapha body type. There's the more fiery body type, the type A, if you like, that have more heat in their body and that are go-getters, go, 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 and that can, tend to like burn and overextend themselves. And then there's the 3rd body type also, and these are, you can visually see qualities and characteristics of these type as well as behavioral patterns. And the 3rd body type is the one that's more maybe a little flighty, you could say, because they're less anchored or grounded. They have, very creative, very receptive, but also just easy to come and to go. So they need, they need more fire and they need more grounding to keep them in balance. But, I want to introduce something small but very crucial to our audience who might not be familiar with Ayurveda. And this is something that Dr. Mishra, Vaidya Mishra, taught that takes Ayurveda to the next level, is that these body types are actually connected to cosmic energies that regulate everything and that give us this body type. And it's their sources are found in the galaxy. So the sun is the source of the fiery body type. The moon is the source of the, airy and light body type, the vata body type.
Hmm.
And then earth and water is the source of the heavy or kapha body type. So when we're talking about body types, what we're really saying is a person has the propensity to receive more lunar energy or more heavy energy from the environment. It's like, let me give you a small example that Vaidya Mishra used to use. You plant 2 seeds, one for a chili and one for zucchini, in the same soil next to each other. What is it that makes the seed of the chili sprout into a chili and the other one into a zucchini? It's that the seed is programmed to receive more solar energy, more fire from the environment. And the zucchini is programmed to receive more water and earth, and it makes it juicy and watery and soft. So just like that, some people receive more solar energy and others receive more space and air energy. And that when we are born with those, receptive, factors, but we also maintain a certain balance. And then in life, as we're getting exposed to situations and relationships and the flow of time, we may have too much of fire, too much of earth and soil, and that throws everything off. So the diet comes in and the sleep comes in to try to bring back that balance that we were born with, even though we might all be different from each other. So
I had never heard that. That is so interesting. And, it would make sense um, for us Vata types because the moon goes through cycles and changes all the time. And so if that's the strong influence in your life, that keeps that changeable thing happening. So I guess what this means is that to bring more balance into your body, and this is very superficial because you really need a consultation. You really need to know what's going on, not only in your body, but what's going on in your body now. And
yes.
so that kind of takes me to the next question, which is we have fundamental body types that we're born with, but
Yes.
is the influence different at different times of our lives? And how might that affect our sleep patterns?
Absolutely. And that's another beautiful question. And the answer is even more beautiful because we don't live in vacuum. We are so connected. in medieval times, they used to speak about how our bodies were the microcosm and the macrocosm was around us, and one mirrored the other. But over, hundreds of years, we lost the real understanding. And even that knowledge was actually borrowed from the ancients, via the Greeks from India, from ancient Vedic culture. But the point is, we don't live in vacuum, and there's cycles and there's flow and there's transformation happening. And one such great transformation is not only happening on a daily basis, but it's happening over the years from infanthood to adulthood to old age. And we are born with certain properties, and we are born with a certain amount of lunar energy that's cool and keeps us grounded and chubby and healthy. And as we go through time, we generate, or we're exposed to more fiery energy, we become more pitta. And then as we age, our resources of lunar energy get depleted. We have too much heat and fire, and then we end up dry. We end up with too much air, and we need to do something to get even more sleep, because sleep becomes harder. Because one of the things, that we also experienced the last 2 years was too much exposure to fiery elements, stressful thoughts, stressful emotions. And one factor that we tend to forget sometimes, and it's crucial for good sleep, is EMF plays a key role. And EMF is very hot, fiery energy that burns the lunar cooling energies. So to balance all these things, there's very specific things that we can all do based on our body types. And as you said, there's so many details to look into. It's best, if you do have chronic sleep issues, to consult with an Ayurvedic physician or practitioner. But there are wonderful things that you can do. So basically what you want to do in order to enhance and have better sleep is you want to increase the receptivity of lunar energy, of more Soma, which is grounding and heavy and cooling and puts out the fire. So if you have too much fire or air and space, the remedy is more lunar cooling grounding energy. So that's why, for example, one of Vaidya Mishra's favorite recipes, and this is across the board, it can be eaten by everybody because it's very balanced, is you can do a mixture of 4 tablespoons of yogurt, 1 teaspoon of honey, 2 pinches of fresh ground nutmeg, and stir everything together nicely. And then half a teaspoon of ghee melted and pour it on top.
Okay, you mentioned several things there that I think a lot of our readers are not familiar with. First of all, there's that word soma. So we need some kind of a definition of what that is. And I wanted to clarify, because you said that the moving energy, the body type that is ruled by the moon, but then you said that lunar energy will help ground you. So
yes.
Oh.
So lunar energy is somagenic, Soma energy. And it's heavy, it's cold, and it's cooling and grounding.
Oh, okay.
And so just like, there's the moon and the sun, there are food items that have more moon energy or more sun energy, or, so for example, milk has a lot of Soma. It has more lunar properties. Black pepper has more solar, sharp, it's fast, it's pungent. And so when your sleep is off, it means you are lacking some Soma. And you could be lacking.
Does Soma, is it sort of associated with coolness and groundedness, that word Soma?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And so when you are lacking sleep, either due to, your age, or let's say you are younger and, you should not be experiencing any sleep disruption, still the events of the day could have burned off your soma. Overthinking burns off your soma. Emotional stress burns off your soma. In scientific terms, basically what's happening is when you are mentally or emotionally stressed out, your body makes cortisol, and cortisol lowers your body's pH. So your body becomes more acidic. So it
Oh,
burns off your soma. So you see, it's like a new paradigm. It's a new way of thinking of all these things that are so familiar to us, but it makes sense, not just on an intellectual level, but also on a very intuitive level. So
yeah, I love this because one of the posts that I shared this past month was using nature as your healer. And the whole idea is that no matter how frustrating or difficult things get, if you connect with the air, the fire, the elements, if you're balanced in those elements, it helps on every level. And you're just giving us the science behind it and the ancient science behind it. So I love this. This is right up my alley. So so are we saying that as people get older, in the latter times of their lives, they tend to be more, well, speaking for myself, more scattered or not as grounded? Is that just typical for everybody pretty much across the board?
it is typical because it's part of the cycle. So there's nothing, wrong or right about it, just that it is, how when newborns are so chubby, they're, full of, they're just full of soma when they are born. And nature supports that also, because nature endows, them with all of that soma that then in the middle part of life gets transformed through the fire, because soma is cold and heavy and grounding and grounded. It needs fire to transform.
Oh,
So what happens in the later phases of life is we are born with a lot of soma, we use it up, we become active in the middle stages of our lives, we become productive and creative, and then slowly we start to run out of the natural resources that we were endowed with. So you have to supplement, means you bring it in externally through good food, and then sleep is a big factor for the production of soma. When we sleep on time, because what time you go to bed makes a big difference. And science talks about this now, because we know that melatonin production by the pineal gland starts around 8 p.m. and it peaks at 10 p.m. So you should be asleep in those 2 hours, or you should at
huh.
least make your way towards your bed. Once you are asleep, then the body goes into a different mode. And if you are not asleep, you are actually using your body and burning up the soma instead of storing up more soma at night.
Hmm.
And there's a whole huge science behind this, Ayurvedically and in terms of science as well. And we all know we need like a full night of sleep. We need the 4 stages of sleep to process everything that we went through the day, but also to get ready for a fresh new day. So unless you sleep, at the right time, you still have a big window. It's like a 2-hour window. Our body's chemistry will go off. It will not, stay balanced. And then we will not have proper ratios of soma to agni and marut. And then everything goes haywire. Our pH goes down. We start to have cravings. If sleep is not right, it's the gateway to all kinds of imbalances, basically. So going to bed on time and sleeping enough hours to make soma is actually a very important step towards regulating our daily activities, our mental health, and
So what I've taken, my takeaways from all of that is, um, probably better not to eat anything really hot and spicy right before you go to bed.
absolutely.
And also to try to hit the sack in that window between 8 and 10, which I think is going to be a real challenge for people. But I know personally that if I go to bed after 10, it's like as I'm approaching 10 o'clock, everything starts to shut down and my body's saying, go to bed, go to bed. And if my pitta, the intellect, the type A kicks in and I stay up after that, it's much harder for me to go to sleep. And my sleep is not as deep.
Absolutely. Very, very correct. Because, like, we know we are part of a system and there's a flow of energies in our bodies. Our bodies are making like specific chemicals, like, with the melatonin. And that's also happening in nature around us too, because the sun has set and the moon is rising. The air is cooler and there is more soma in the air as well. So that's the time to actually settle down and slow things down and stop making more pitta, more fiery energy, so that we can also receive more of the soma and our body can go into that restful, deep sleep mode. So that's 100% accurate. And it's very hard because what happens is we get stuck in a cycle, right?
That's right.
We sleep late, we wake up late, and the body's biochemistry is off. It's not following the circadian rhythms or cycles anymore. And it becomes another cycle, self-imposed cycle. So first thing that needs to happen is you've got to have the desire. You've got to really want to go to bed on time, let's say, not early. You've got to have the desire. If you don't have the desire, nothing's going to work. Once you decide you really want to go to bed early, next thing is you've got to figure out what it is that's keeping your mind running. If you're working too late into the day, or you're still using computers late into the, until 9 p.m., your body's not going to be able to settle down. It's a mechanical thing, there's no magic to it.
That's
It's
right.
just, it is what it is because you've been using it and your body's in a certain go, go, go mode. So one thing that you could do is, number one, shut down all your EMF devices. Give yourself, you need to give yourself, you need to treat yourself like a little one and say, okay, we are going to stop working at 7 p.m., shut down the computer by 7. And when you take something away, you have to give something in return, right?
Otherwise, the baby's going to get very
Cranky. So you've got to fill that space. You've got to do something that's going to make your heart happy as well. So one thing you could do is, for mental overstimulation, pranayama, a very gentle alternate nostril pranayama. It's very easy, you can.
We did in one of the earlier posts, I described that pranaya is my understanding is it's very loosely translated as breath, but it's more life force. There's a lot of ways to describe it. But in one of the earlier posts, I described it. I'll just show it here briefly because I need to do this more. So you start covering what you inhale, cover one nostril, right, and then exhale, switch, inhale. Did I do that right? You better give the description better.
So we can start, we can start by releasing used up prana from the soma side. This is the soma side. There's so much to this soma, agni, and marut. One day maybe we can chat again, because you mentioned prana. Prana, actually, Vaidya restored the original meaning of prana, which is not just life, breath, and energy. It's actually made up of soma, agni, and marut. So it's very beautiful knowledge, and we'll chat about it one day. So what you are doing, you're getting more prana through the nostrils. So we close the right nostril with the thumb. Use your right hand, close it, and then exhale.
The right nostrils. This is reversing it, but yeah.
Yeah. So exhale from the left nostril, and then inhale. And then repeat on the right side. Exhale and inhale. Exhale. Inhale. I already
I
feel
think I'm
calm.
going to go to sleep.
It works right away. It regulates, the two sides, and you will find yourself all of a sudden breathing deeper and craving to breathe deeper. And you can do this for 5 minutes, but if you do it for 10 minutes, it's even better and nicer. And you can put a clock and just sit down in a nice quiet space. And it's nice if you can sit straight. Don't like strain your back to sit too straight, but comfortably straight. And then everything flows through the sushumna nadi in the spine even better. So this works, really well for trying to cope with mental anxiety if you're trying to fall asleep. If you have emotional stress, that's another factor that also burns soma, that also lowers body pH. If you're sad, and there's been so many tragedies over the past couple of years on
Yeah.
so many fronts on a global scale. So laughter is the best remedy. We
That's great.
cannot, sometimes you cannot. It is what it is. You cannot change things, and it's hard to accept them. But somehow when you laugh about things, it makes it so easy to be able to cope with and process and release. And there's always something funny in any situation, no matter how tragic. We just have to, it's a mindset. You have to find it. You have to learn to look at things from the funny side, and never, all the great rishis of, the Vedic tradition are always telling us not to take things too seriously, because this is just a narrative. It's coming and going, and it's going more than it's coming to, most of the time. And there's going to be more stuff coming. So if you want to hold on to the, tragic lens, you're going to see more tragedy happening. And it doesn't take away from the gravity or, the seriousness. It doesn't mean you disrespect anything, but finding the humor in every situation is a great healing thing, that
I
habit.
love that. I find sometimes that if I have an amusing book that I'm reading, if I read a few pages of that before I go to bed, it it changes my whole perspective. I feel
Shifts,
rested and happier.
right? It shifts everything, right?
Everything, everything. So I wanted to ask one one last question. I mean, there's a million questions I could ask you. We should do this more of these. But I wanted to ask about any particular sleep aids that people might look to. A very close friend of mine was prescribed sleeping pills that ended up being very highly addictive narcotics. What she went through, it was like a year or more of detoxification I would not wish on my worst enemy. And then I learned later there was a very famous man who was prescribed the same ones, and he described in great detail the horror, the emotional and physical horror that he went through detoxing from these sleeping pills. Now, I'm not disrespecting Western medicine because it saved, it saved many people's lives. I know that, but there's got to be a better way. And so many of the wonderful pieces of advice you just gave just make so much logical sense. But I'm just wondering if, in addition to all that, are there any specific natural supplements or herbs or tinctures that you can recommend that people might help with all these other things to help them get a better night's sleep?
Absolutely. And nature has supplied us with so much and even more. And there's so many beautiful flowers, herbs, plants that we can do.
Mhm.
And now, and you mentioned it yourself, when it comes to the evening time, you want to reduce things that have more fire in them and do things that are more somagenic. So there are plants that are actually, loaded. Rose, for example, is full of soma.
Hmm.
Lavender has soma, but it also works on, calming down the nervous system, even though it has a little bit of fire. But Dr. Mishra, Vaidya Mishra, actually made these incredible formulations, and we have everything from a traditional tea that's, I actually have it here. If you'd like, I can.
This is great.
So we have this tea called Soma Nidra tea, and you can see the name Soma Nidra means a sleep full of Soma. Nidra means sleep. And this tea has chamomile, rosebuds, lavender, peppermint, valerian, basil, jatamansi, poppy seed, and calamus, mace, and nutmeg. And on our label, it explains what each one does. So what we're doing with this tea is we are calming down the nervous system. So the racing mind, slows down, but we are also soothing the emotional heart, because those two factors play a major role in prohibiting good somagenic sleep. And that's why this tea, like we have so many, including myself, happy customers, if you want to put it that way. So the trick is, though, if you've decided you want to go to bed early, you start drinking this tea earlier. Don't wait for the last half hour before your bedtime.
Oh,
So I usually like to start drinking this like late in the afternoon, like 5 or 6 o'clock even. And it prepares my body. It signals things to my body so that I slowly start to wind down. And then when, my pineal gland starts to produce melatonin, I'm ready and I'm willing also to go to bed. And
that's going to be my next purchase. It's a Soma Nidra tea.
this is fabulous. But in case, you had a crazy day and you couldn't do it, and you want to go to bed and you don't want to drink tea, there's many things that you can do. One thing is, for example, adding a little bit of oil on the Adipati Marma. We didn't get to talk about Marma points, which is where, the lunar and solar energy enter our body. Maybe on another chat one day we can do it. But we have this wonderful, it's called Mahamarma oil. And this has Jatamansi, it has Bacopa, and it has Dashmula. So we'll use like just a tiny drop of this and we apply it. So it's basically using your ring finger. You go like this, you extend it, and there will be your Brahmarandra, which is the fontanelle in little infants. And that spot receives a lot of cosmic pranic energy.
So you put the forehead right here, and
Yes.
then which finger? The middle finger,
The
just
ring finger,
where it ends.
where it
Oh, the
ends.
ring finger.
Yes.
Got it. Oh, okay.
And then there is your fontanelle, and you put a drop of this on that spot and just gently go clockwise as if the clock is on top of your head. And this will filter and help bring in more soma. So this is like an immediate remedy. Another immediate remedy that we have is all the ingredients of the tea. Vaidya put into this, it's an oral spray. So basically, when you drink the tea, that's why it's nice to have it earlier, because it has to go through your digestive system and get processed and filtered through your liver, then goes into your blood and goes to your brain. So it's a longer process. This is transmucosal, meaning you spray 2 sprays, hold the liquid in your mouth, and it's delicious, by the way. Hold the liquid in your mouth, and it enters your bloodstream immediately through the mucosa, and you get the effect of the herbs right away. So within minutes, your body has received the signal of more soma, and it's starting to calm down already. So if you wake up in the middle of the night and you want to fall back asleep and you can't, this is a good thing to have.
Oh, that's okay.
So that's a good thing to have. Another good thing, so this is transmucosal. There's the transdermal, which means across the skin, transdermal, right? Across the skin barrier, which again bypasses the digestive system, which means it goes in faster and gets delivered to your brain is our Soma Nidra roll-on.
Oh, nice.
And
Where did you apply that?
so this you apply on the cervical, so on both sides of the neck, and also on the top of the spine, and you can put it on your lower back, lower spine, also on your wrist, and it smells just fabulous. And the smell also,
We love things that have wonderful fragrance.
So that's another one that works like a charm because it's transdermal. But again, you've got to at least not have too much heat in your body and in the room where you are. You want to have things a little cooler. If you ate like, I don't know, like Korean barbecue sauce, it's my favorite. I love sweet and spicy stuff. Or you had, a lot of soy or chilies, red chilies. There are some people who need to eat a lot of spicy, pungent things for lunch, and they can digest it and nothing happens to them because their body needs it. But come evening time, they need to even cut out salt because salt can be pungent and heating. So their body goes through that big contrast. So if you're eating hot, spicy things, everything heating in the evening, these remedies will help, but they will not be 100%. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be like, you have to come at it from all angles, from all sides. The whole picture. And again, that depends on your desire. If you want it, then you'll do it. There's one more remedy I want to share. We have many more things.
Okay.
But, our feet are equipped with all these marma points, they're called, that connect to the rest of our bodies. So basically, whatever you're doing to your feet, whichever part you're touching, you are actually stimulating and communicating with the rest of your organs and your bodies. So the feet are a very important place, and they literally get a beating every day because we're on our feet, the shoes we wear, and things tend to get stuck in our feet also because they're the extremity where things go. And unless you make an effort to put your feet up or, massage them, give them some TLC, So here is the same product. Again, it's, same herbs with some variations in a base of shea butter. So it's very rich and creamy. And you apply this on your feet at night and massage. Give yourself some love. Massage your feet, and you don't have to worry about any energetic point. Just do everything, from your ankles all the way to your toes, and just nicely. And then you can put on a thin pair of cotton socks, loose ones that you don't mind staining because the shea butter is a little greasy. And this will also aid tremendously. I mean, just the attention you will be giving to your feet before sleep,
that whole thing, that whole practice makes me feel like a baby just being nurtured and cared for. And we don't do that for ourselves enough. So I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely. We need to have, that's brahmacharya. It's like compassion towards others, of course, but towards ourselves as well. We tend to beat ourselves way too much. It's become like, a mental habit in our, constant search for excellence in society and in the eyes of the other. We will sacrifice a lot of our own personal health, desires, and, necessities. So being kind to ourselves is where kindness towards others begins.
Boy, is this true. You don't know this, but a couple of days ago, I interviewed one of my other guests, and she talked about self-care in relationships. And this ties in so perfectly, so directly, and so personally. And I didn't know which direction this interview was going to go, but it's like nature controlled the whole thing to make it all tie up with a beautiful bow. So this was Malina Takvarian Mishra of Chandika.com. I'm going to put links in my article to the products that you mentioned, to your website. I'll also put the links to the website on YouTube. I definitely encourage all of my readers and all of my viewers to sign up for her newsletter and check out this beautiful, the website is just a beautiful website. I encourage you to check it out. So thank you again so very much for being part of this 31 days of self-care. And I wish everybody out there a beautiful night's sleep.
Thank you for having me, Andrea. This was delightful, and I hope we chat again in the future.
We'll do more. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Namaste.